Hi guys. Hi guys. Today we're going to look at App 11, and App 11 consists of three different exercises regarding conditional or if then else statements. The first one, the user will be asked for their grade, and if it's greater than 70, he will get a passing grade, and if it's less than 70, he'll get a failing grade. So let's calculate, and we get a failing grade. For the next exercise, the user is asked two numbers, and the application will tell you if the sum of both numbers is less than or equal to 100, less than or greater than 100. Lastly, exercise 3 will check if a number is odd or even, and it's odd. So let's get started. We're going to create a new project. And call it App 11. I am using the newest update of Xcode, Xcode 10.0. So if you see anything different, it's just really different, really minimal things that have changed. So I'm going to head over to my main.storyboard, and I'm going to start inputting my objects. Objects in Xcode 10.0 are going to be located right here. Start with my label. Exercise 1, and we're going to call it pass or fail. Well, let's edit it a little bit. I'm still getting used to the new update. Let me remember it's here. It's in the center. So let's center this, make the text a little bit bigger. Maybe make the font something bold. And here we go. Next up, we're going to require a text field. In this text field, we're going to ask the user for a number, a grade, and if he or she passes or fails, we're going to display that with a label. So let's look for a label. Let's center this, make it a little bit smaller, bigger. And we can delete the label. And it's just a blank label. Lastly, we're going to require a button to calculate what the user has inputted. So button calculate. Format it. Maybe put a background. Okay, and there we go, we have the basics. Lastly, we're going to require two buttons taking us to the next two exercises. So I'm just going to copy and paste this one, and we're going to be taken to exercise, oops, it has to be exercise 2. And exercise 3. Perfect. So let's close this up and we can move on to our code. So if we look over here to the view controller scene, we have one view controller, which is this, what we're viewing. And if we head over to the files over here, we have our storyboard and one viewcontroller.swift. So viewcontroller.swift, if we click it, it's going to repeat the same code that we have on the right side. That's because that's the file that contains all of our coding. We do not require another viewcontroller.swift file for now. We can program all of our view controllers inside this same viewcontroller.swift file. So we don't have to create it. What we're going to do is just going to click on the view controller scene and copy and paste it 2 times because we're going to need a total of 3 view controllers. So anything we code is going to make changes on these 3 view controllers. If we want separate lines of code for our view controllers, we have to go to File, New, and I'll show you later on during the course, but you have to create a new Coca file. Okay, so we have formatted our first one. Let's move on to our second one. This is going to ask the user 2 values. I'm going to call it 2 and call it greater than 100. Copy and paste this text field. Close this. And instead of saying grade, we're going to ask the user number 1 and number 2. Instead of saying 2, 1. There we go. And where's our label? Let's move it. And lastly, exercise 3, even or odd. And we're not going to ask the user for a grade, but a number. And we want to be taken back to 1 or 2. So first things first, I am going to click and drag on these buttons that are going to take me to the different view controllers and connect them. So exercise 2, I want to be taken to view controller 2, so I just control click drag, click show. Do the same for 3, so on and so forth. And there we have our arrows symbolizing that these buttons will take us back and forth throughout our view controllers. Next up, we're gonna create our connections. As always, we're gonna make some space here in the class and start creating our connections for our text field. I'm gonna call this text grade. Our blank label, let's call this label grade. And lastly, our button, which we're going to call button grade. And buttons, as you remember, is an action and a UI button. Just going to put some comments here. This is exercise 1. We're going to do the same for exercise 2. Let's call this text number 1 outlet. and my button. Lastly, the connections for exercise 3. Call this text even, odd. Our label, we can call it label even, odd. And our button, we can call it button even, odd, which is a UI button. And there we have it, all of our connections. So let's start coding. So the first button, we're going to create a constant called, let's name it, maybe since we're using grade, let's name it grade. Let grade, and we're going to make it equal to whatever the user inputs here. So text grade dot text. However, since we want this to be an integer, as we're going to be comparing it to 70, if it's greater than 70, display pass, and if it's less than fail, we have to convert this that right now is a string into an integer by typing in int at first and adding our respective exclamation marks. This error, as always, is just telling us that we haven't created a constant called grade, and it might be a mistake, and it's not, so we'll just skip it. Then we're going to head over and create our first if statement. So we're going to say if grade is greater than or equal to 70, and then we're going to open the parentheses. This is the then part. So our parentheses is then. If we click enter, a new parenthesis will appear automatically, and everything that wants this condition to be true will happen in this line, in this code between these two brackets. So if it is true, we want label grade.text to be equal to pass. Else, so if it's less than 70, what do we want to do? We want it to say fail. So we're going to write else, open a new bracket. As you can see, there's a lot of errors because we have one extra bracket until I press enter and a new bracket is created. So everything in else I type here, which is the same, label grade.text equal to fail. And that's really it. We can even go ahead and copy this one. Now we're going to start from scratch on these ones. So we're going to create a new constant called number1 equal to the integer of text number1 dot text. Let number2 equal to int. And our if statement, if number1 plus number is greater than or equal to 100, then we open parentheses, then label number dot text will be equal to greater than 100. Okay, and then our else is going to be the same thing. Label number dot text will be equal to less than 100. It's actually greater than or equal to. Less than, just that, like that. Great. So, oh, it's called label numbers, not number. That's why I have an error there. There we go. Lastly, exercise 3. Exercise 3, we're going to create a new constant called let num even odd equal to whatever the user inputs here. So text even odd dot text, which I forgot to put the int, if num even odd is, and we're going to use something called the modulo. So we've done this one, and the modulo. What we do is we put the percentage symbol and then a 2, and what it does is if a number is divided by 2 and the remainder is 0, then that number is even. So if you think about it, that's kind of logical. If we get, let's say, 10 divided by 2, the answer is 5 with a remainder of 0. If we get 9 divided by 2, we get answer 4 with a remainder of 1. So, well, of a percentage. So we go to num even and modulo 2, and we have to put 2 equal signs, because if we put 1 equal sign, the computer will think that we're trying to make the constant num even odd equal to something else. No, we're just going to try to say if num even odd is equal to this as a conditional statement. So remember, 2 equal signs. If it's equal to 0, then we open parentheses, label even odd dot text will be equal to that number is even, else odd. Oh, did we miss anything? I don't think so. There we go. So let's try our app out. We're going to use a iPhone 8. If we were to go to another view controller, you see that it's the same code, and they're all called view controllers. So they share the same coding in all the view controllers, and we're going to look later on at having different code for each of your view controllers. Okay, let's try our code now. My grade, let's say I got a 50, calculate, fail. Let's say I got 100, pass, perfect. Number 2, let's try 40 and 39. It's less than, greater than or equal to. We just have to expand this label even further. Lastly, exercise 3, let's just put any number. And it's odd, apparently. Put a 4, it's even. Perfect. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this. And quit it, stop tasks. Well, actually, I want to change my label in this one, make it a little bit bigger. Save it. Head over to my Finder. I saved it in my documents, app 11, this one. I'm going to right click, compress. And here's my homework. I just have to upload these two back into Blackboard. And that's it.